In professional sports, there's one rule almost every superstar follows. Take every dollar you can get because careers are short. Injuries happen fast. Teams move on without emotion. And in a brutal league like the NFL, players are constantly reminded that loyalty usually lasts only until the salary cap becomes inconvenient. That's why what Tom Brady did made absolutely no sense. At the peak of his career, during an era when quarterbacks were becoming more powerful than ever, Brady willingly took less money, not once, multiple times. And the scary part wasn't just that he sacrificed millions, it's what happened after. Because while other teams struggled to keep their rosters together under the pressure of massive quarterback contracts, the New England Patriots kept winning, kept adapting, kept surviving, year after year after year. At some point, people around the league started asking a dangerous question. What if Brady had discovered a loophole in dynasty building? Because maybe the most valuable thing in football wasn't just having a great quarterback. Maybe it was having a great quarterback willing to leave money on the table. And once that idea became real, it changed how people viewed championships forever. Was Brady making a sacrifice for winning? Was he quietly manipulating the salary cap better than anyone else? Or did he expose a truth the NFL never wanted to admit? That dynasties aren't just built on talent, they're built on economics. To understand why Brady's decisions became so revolutionary, you first have to understand how quarterback money changed the NFL. Before the 2000s, even elite quarterbacks weren't consuming massive percentages of a team's salary cap the way they do today. But as the league evolved into a quarterback-driven sport, franchises became desperate to secure elite passers at any cost. And desperation changes markets fast. Suddenly, every franchise quarterback became a financial arms race. Teams feared losing elite quarterbacks more than almost anything else, because without one, championship windows closed instantly. That fear pushed contracts higher and higher every single year. Quarterbacks stopped being just players, they became entire organizational investments. The logic made sense. If a quarterback could carry your franchise for a decade, then paying him massive money felt justified. But there was a hidden consequence most teams didn't fully grasp yet. The more money paid to the quarterback, the harder it became to build everything else around him. Football is different from sports like basketball. One superstar can't dominate every aspect of the game alone. NFL rosters are massive. Offensive lines matter. Defensive depth matters. Coaching depth matters. Special teams matter. One weak area can destroy an entire season. And this is where the problem started emerging. Teams would pay their quarterback huge money, but eventually sacrifices had to be made elsewhere. Key veterans would leave in free agency. Defensive units would weaken. Offensive weapons would disappear. Slowly, rosters became top-heavy. But then there was Brady. While other quarterbacks chased market-resetting contracts, Brady repeatedly did something the NFL almost never sees from a superstar athlete. He voluntarily accepted less. At first, many people didn't think much of it. Some believed he was simply comfortable financially. Others thought it was just good PR. But over time, something impossible to ignore started happening. The Patriots kept staying contenders longer than anyone else, and people began realizing that Brady's contract decisions weren't just personal choices, they were strategic weapons. In 2013, Brady signed one of the most fascinating contracts in modern sports history. He agreed to a team-friendly extension that lowered his salary cap impact, giving the New England Patriots more flexibility to build the roster around him. On the surface, it looked simple, but in reality, it shocked the league, because franchise quarterbacks almost never willingly reduce their financial leverage. In professional sports, contracts are more than money. They're status. They represent power, respect, and market value. The highest paid quarterbacks are viewed as the faces of the league, yet Brady seemed strangely unconcerned with winning the salary battle. He cared more about sustaining the championship machine. And this is where the story becomes deeper than football, because Brady's decision created an uncomfortable contrast between individual success and team success. While many stars understandably maximized earnings during short careers, Brady appeared obsessed with something else entirely: legacy. He wasn't trying to become the richest quarterback, he was trying to become the most successful quarterback ever. That difference changed everything. By taking less money, Brady allowed New England to maintain flexibility in ways most dynasties couldn't. The Patriots could retain important veterans longer, they could survive roster turnover more effectively, they had room to adjust strategically every offseason, And perhaps most importantly, they avoided the financial suffocation that destroys so many contenders. But Brady's decision also created controversy. Critics argued the situation wasn't entirely fair. Many pointed out that Brady's then-wife, Gisele Bündchen, earned enormous money independently, giving Brady financial security most players could never realistically replicate. Others questioned whether the Patriots had found unofficial ways to maximize Brady's overall financial situation through outside business relationships. Whether those theories were fair or not, they revealed something important. The NFL world was struggling to process what Brady was doing. Because if a superstar quarterback willingly prioritized winning over maximizing salary, it disrupted the normal economics of competition, and the rest of the league suddenly faced a terrifying possibility. What if Brady had found the perfect formula for sustaining a dynasty under the salary cap era? Dynasties in the NFL are supposed to collapse. That's how the system was designed. The salary cap exists specifically to prevent one franchise from dominating forever. Teams lose coordinators, star players leave, depth disappears, windows close. The league constantly pushes toward parity. Yet somehow, the New England Patriots kept surviving every cycle that normally destroys champions. And Brady's contracts became a major reason why. When teams dedicate enormous cap space to one quarterback, every roster decision becomes painful. One bad free agent signing can cripple flexibility. One injury can expose weak depth instantly. But New England constantly operated with room to maneuver. They adapted faster than everyone else. When defensive personnel changed, they rebuilt. When offensive weapons disappeared, they adjusted schemes. When stars left, they found replacements. The Patriots rarely stayed emotionally attached to players because they understood sustainability mattered more than sentiment, and Brady's willingness to take less money gave them breathing room most contenders never had. That flexibility became deadly, because while other teams were trapped trying to justify massive quarterback contracts, New England could spread resources across the roster more efficiently. Offensive lines stayed stronger, defenses stayed competitive, coaching staffs remained stable, and over time, this created one of the greatest advantages in modern sports: consistency. The Patriots didn't just peak once, they kept returning. That's what separated them from almost every other champion of the era. Most teams have short windows where everything aligns perfectly, but Brady and Bill Belichick built something that felt almost immune to normal NFL aging cycles, and the league hated it, because it forced teams to confront an uncomfortable truth. Maybe the salary cap wasn't enough to stop a dynasty if the quarterback himself cooperated with the system. As Brady collected more championships, the conversation around his financial sacrifices became more intense. Some praised him as the ultimate team-first superstar. Others viewed the situation more critically, arguing that most players simply couldn't afford to follow the same path. And honestly, both perspectives had valid points. Football careers are violent and unpredictable. Most players aren't guaranteed longevity. For many athletes, maximizing earnings isn't greed, it's survival. One injury can permanently alter financial futures. So when analysts suggested other quarterbacks should be more like Brady, many players quietly rejected the comparison. Because Brady's situation was unique. Not only was he married to one of the world's highest earning supermodels at the time, but he also had access to endorsement opportunities and long-term branding power few athletes ever experience. Still, none of that changes the core reality. Brady weaponized financial flexibility better than any superstar quarterback before him, and eventually the league started adapting. Teams became obsessed with rookie quarterback windows because young passers provided elite potential at cheaper prices. Franchises realized that financial flexibility at quarterback could dramatically improve roster construction. Suddenly, economics became part of championship analysis. Fans stopped evaluating teams purely based on talent. They started evaluating salary structures too. Could a roster survive its quarterback contract? Could a contender maintain depth after paying its superstar? Brady had fundamentally changed the conversation. Before him, greatness was measured mostly through stats and rings. After him, people began realizing that how a superstar manages cap space could directly shape dynasties. That realization permanently changed NFL team-building philosophy. Years later, Brady's financial sacrifices still feel almost surreal because modern quarterback contracts continue exploding. Today's elite quarterbacks regularly sign deals worth over $50 million annually. Every offseason resets the market higher. And yet Brady spent much of his prime operating differently from almost every superstar around him. The craziest part, it worked. The Patriots became the defining dynasty of the salary cap era. Multiple championships, endless conference title games, 2 decades of relevance in the most unstable major sport in America. That level of sustained dominance shouldn't have been possible, but Brady's decisions helped make it possible. And this is why the story still matters so much today. Because Brady didn't just leave money on the table. He changed the psychology of winning. He forced people to ask whether maximizing individual salary always aligns with maximizing championships. He exposed how fragile roster construction becomes when one player consumes too much cap space. And he demonstrated that sacrifice, when paired with elite talent and organizational stability, could create a nearly unstoppable competitive advantage. Of course, not everyone agrees with the idea that players should sacrifice earnings for team success. Many believe owners benefit disproportionately from narratives about team-friendly deals, and honestly, that criticism is fair. But Brady's case remains different because the results became undeniable. The Patriots didn't just save money, they turned flexibility into rings. And maybe that's the real reason Brady's contract decisions became legendary. Not because he earned less, but because he understood something most athletes never fully embrace. At a certain level of greatness, legacy becomes more valuable than salary rankings. The day Tom Brady took less money, it looked like a simple contract decision. But over time, it became something much bigger. It became a blueprint for how dynasties survive in a league designed to destroy them. Because Brady understood something terrifying before almost everyone else did. In the modern NFL, talent alone isn't enough to sustain greatness. You need flexibility, you need sacrifice, you need alignment between superstar ambition and organizational strategy. And somehow Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots turned those ideas into 2 decades of dominance. That's why this story still echoes through football today. Every time a quarterback signs a massive extension, fans immediately wonder what it means for the roster. Every time a contender loses key players because of cap pressure, Brady's Patriots become part of the conversation again. Because maybe the greatest advantage in football was never just having the greatest quarterback. Maybe it was having the greatest quarterback willing to play a different game than everyone else.